When I was a little boy growing up in Lambaing province in northern Thailand, I'm just kidding. I'm actually from the south. Anyhow, the other night, Pastor texted me and asked if I would share my salvation story, because he was going to be talking about the helmet of salvation today. And he knows that our family, the armor of God, is a precious passage of Scripture. My godly wife started a tradition a long time ago that whenever we passed an armored car on the freeway, we would recite the armor of God as a family. And they also all had moves that they did. You know, we did the sword of the Spirit and, take up the shield of faith. So I thought that the only problem with his words when he said, tell your salvation story, is my salvation story is my whole life. Is that right? I mean, think about those of us. I mean, everything led up to it and everything after it is about it. So I asked him what exactly did he want me to focus on? And he said, just tell your whole life story, you've got the whole day. So, settle in, grab a snack. No, he said he wanted me to focus on the assurance that I feel, the assurance in my life of the fact that I have that helmet of salvation. I said, damn, now that I can do. And I thought about the reasons why we share our testimonies. And I came up with two. We share a testimony, and the one I got from our Sunday school class is when we were sharing our testimonies, I found myself really feeling closer to the people who shared. And I felt that we felt more like a family when we shared that testimony. A few examples, I think, when Uncle Samsak shared about lying about being Christian so he could get a room in the Christian dorm at university. I thought, now there you go. That's it. I found Pastor and I had much in common in that we'd spent time searching in the New Age before, in our young adulthood, before we found our way to Christ. I thought, couldn't tell it without him here, but those of you who are there, those of you who heard the story, you know the emotions. It's hard to talk about it. The emotions of Mark's story, and Mark and his grandfather. If you've heard that story, if you haven't, maybe just put him in a corner and have him tell you about his grandpa. So I thought one was to bring us closer together as a church family. One reason. And of course the other is, in case we have guests here or visitors who or even someone who's been here a long time, who hasn't really given their heart to Jesus, then the point of testimony is to tell you how my life is different because of it, and convince you that it is a wonderful and brilliant and satisfying choice and path to take. So I decided I had to do at least a little bit of my backstory. So I grew up in an odd cult that is not the one that Tom Cruise and John Travolta are in. A lot of people confuse it. It's called Christian Science, not Scientology. But it's definitely a mind-controlling and dark cult. And the short version of it is, because Christian Scientists don't go to the doctor, because God made everything perfect, is their story. And since illness is not perfect, illness must be an illusion. You understand the darkness in that story? What that means is, if you're sick, if you're not feeling well, and I say, oh, I'm so sorry that you're sick, what I've done is actually make your sickness real. If I show compassion to you, I'm harming you. Isn't that dark? Yeah. Oh, well, and the short version of it is the fact that we never went to doctors, and that my sister was very ill. And that's, there are really two big factors in my salvation. The illness of my sister and her death. Are you back? Okay. And then, after that the period of searching I talked about that Pastor Peter and I shared. Because, I mean, my sister's death left a very bad taste in my mouth for religion. I was 18. I was like, this is a bad thing. As a matter of fact, I'm very much like a Paul. Because I recently made a 20-year recontact with a friend on Facebook. And he unfriended me immediately when I shared how we have a faith-based family. Okay. And that I shared about the boys and Abby all serving on worship team, and Daniel playing the piano, and how that's the center of her life, and he just like went away. Well, the sad thing is, in high school, I had talked him out of believing in Jesus Christ. So, and I was good at that, but he doesn't believe me when I tell him about Jesus. He believed me when I told him about atheism, but he didn't believe me when I came back as a Christian and told him about Jesus. So that's a harsh thing to carry. So at 18, religion was a bad thing, and yet, I'm sure Peter will echo this, I needed something. You can't just remove things from your life, because something else will come in, like the, I don't know if you remember the story where the demons were cast out, and they come back and the house is all swept and clean, and they bring back 7 of their buddies because, you know, the house is that much more welcoming to them. And that's really very much what happened. I emptied my life of that, and all sorts of ideas came in, because you have to believe in something. You have to hold on to something. So that's kind of the backstory. So while I'm searching again, like I shared with Pastor, searching for what truths are out there, or what power might be out there, or what ability to move in life with meaning. Because that's really, I'm firmly convinced that whatever people think they're looking for in life, they're looking for meaning. That's really what it comes down to. We want our lives to mean something. And so in my searching, interestingly, at 30 years old, I was going to church because I met a pretty church girl. And the pastor, brilliant man, who later died of cancer of the heart, which I didn't know you could get. He suddenly stopped the sermon, and he moved away from the pulpit, and he said, "You know what? I want to just stop for a second. He said, and I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to go with me to the Sea of Galilee." He said, what I want you to do is I want you to look, and you're walking along the sand, you can hear the breeze, and Jesus is there. And you're following him. And we're just walking along the beach, you know? And I just started. If you guys know what, it was like Pokemon tears. You know how Pokemon cry? You guys, everybody? They do this, whoosh, you know, it pours out. And I thought I was really in trouble. Because I was pretty sure I was too smart to be a Christian. So then I knew I was sunk. And soon after that, I asked Jesus to be Lord of my life. He came into me in a powerful way. Everything was new and different. I'm an adult convert. I was 30 years old. A lot of my friends who I know who have late life, not late life, but adult conversions, a lot of times it was at the worst point in their lives. When they reached up for something, when they were desperate. I was fine. I had started my career. I was teaching. I was feeling good. I met a great girl. She went to church, but I was trying to get over that, you know. And so I was doing good, but I didn't have any meaning in that. And as soon as I asked Lord, and I did, everything meant something. When we talk about the armor of God, particularly powerful for me always is the belt of truth. Because I think that as we move in the world, at our core, we have that truth. That belt that makes everything meaningful. Everything. There's not a moment, right? There's not an interaction. There's not a step we take in life that isn't loaded overflowing with meaning. It's beautiful. It's magnificent. And that part is for those of you who may be wondering why I should bother to be a Christian. Why should I bother to make that decision? And it's because ever since every step I take, I know that I'm with the Lord and that I understand the truth of the universe. I want to talk about that helmet of salvation, which sometimes makes me think of the idea, I'm going to wrap it up, of a roller coaster. It's not lunchtime yet, right? Some of us love roller coasters. I can't ride roller coasters the way I could as a kid. My stomach doesn't quite like it as much as it used to. I remember the line was short, guys. We'd get off and go right around and get right back on. Yeah. Now they go back on. I'm saying, I'm good. You go ahead. And the image of the roller coaster, to me, the reason why we can enjoy the terror is because we know how it finishes. You see, we're going to ride into the station. Everything's going to be fine, just like the people who were in the car before us. And that's that helmet of salvation. Imagine a roller coaster where you had no idea if it was going to end, or how it was going to end, or who had built it. And then you're flying off at every corner, looping and taking those turns and never knowing if you're going to fly off or crash, or if it's just going to go on forever. But we know we're going to ride into that station and Jesus is going to be there lifting the lap bar. And with that we can handle whatever curves, loops, or even long, boring uphill parts. Sometimes those are the hardest, right? Not so much the terrifying always, but it's just the routine, the things that must, like I said, the long uphill toward it. So the helmet of salvation is that assurance, that moving forward, with our mind guarded and our head protected, that everything's going to be okay, and that's amazing. If in this testimony, if anyone, if you're a guest. Make sure you talk to someone about what it meant to them. To have the helmet of salvation, to be moving in truth every day of your life. And what it means for me is that my kids are in the Word every day. And whatever else I do as a dad, my kids are in the Word every day. And loving Jesus and walking with Him and serving at church. So I did that earlier. It's that was a good tune. So the two things I thought about testimonies, bringing us closer together as a family, and I figure Peter asked me because I'm the new guy, or because we have the same hairstyle. To bring us together as a family, and maybe as a family, when people see our love for each other, our unity, they'll want that. And that they'll come to us and say, hey, that's really cool. And that they'll want that, and they'll ask us about it, and maybe we can share in a really powerful way. Last thing I want to say, it's about believing what we really believe. I've heard some powerful sermons from atheists. Particularly one named Penn Jillette. I don't know if you know him. He has a show which is called Truth or BS, except they don't abbreviate that. And his belief is that the Bible and the gospel are BS. And the reason he says that is because he says if Christians believed what they really believed, that is, if they believe that as they're walking down the street, the people you pass many of them are going to spend an eternity in hell. If we believe that, then our hearts must be broken. for those people we passed. And he says, in all this time, no Christian has ever come up to him and said, you need to get it saved. You need to get it handled. He said, if they believe what they believe, how can they let me just burn in hell? And so, now there are huge flaws with that argument. We're not going to go into that. There are huge flaws in that logical argument. Because, I mean, people believe they shouldn't smoke, they still smoke. We all believe, you know, we shouldn't eat that second piece of cake, and yet we do. But so let's, you know, be ready to share. Be ready to talk about what it means to have Christ in our lives.